Today we're back with some more updated NHL trade rumors. We're focusing on the Calgary Flames, the San Jose Sharks, and the New York Rangers. Plus, could the Montreal Canadiens have any more offer sheets up their sleeve? Some people think that they're not quite done in that regard. I'll give you my thoughts coming up next. Welcome back here to Top Shelf Hockey. Now, as I mentioned, we have some more updated NHL trade rumors I wanted to get your opinion on here today. There's still plenty of teams sorting out their rosters, of course, and many of them are up against the salary cap and need to make some moves here. So let's jump in and see what's in the rumor mill and what we might actually see happening here for some more NHL trades. Now, yesterday we talked about the New York Rangers, and I want to touch on them here again. We talked about the possibility of Chris Kreider being moved, the fact that he's heading into the last year of his contract, and they're likely either going to extend him or move him, and what his future might hold. But another player within the Rangers organization that certainly I think they would like to move, which would give them some more cap space flexibility, and really hasn't worked out for them, as defenseman Kevin Shattenkirk. Now, they've made a lot of additions here to their blue line over the last little while. Of course, they made the big trade acquiring Jacob Trouba. They also acquired Adam Fox as well during the Stanley Cup playoffs. So those are two young defensemen that are expected to jump into their lineup here. They also have Tony DeAngelo. Of course, they also have some veterans like Brady Shea, Brendan Smith, and Mark Stahl. So they have more than enough capable defensemen, and Kevin Shattenkirk, for the $6 million plus that he earns, really has not earned the contract. The only problem is he still has 2 years left, and trading that contract based on his last couple of years of production and play will prove difficult. They'd likely have to retain some salary, but it might be a way to free up a roster spot here and possibly, save some salary cap space to make some other additions. Now, of course, if you look at their salary cap situation, and I'll put it up here on the screen, they certainly are kind of tight. They still have some pending RFAs that they need to sign here. Obviously, Jacob Trouba that they acquired is not signed yet. Tony DeAngelo needs a new contract. Brendan Lemieux and Pavel Buchnevich are both RFAs as well. So they got 4 guys to sign, and they just don't have enough room to do it. And one of the easier ways to accomplish that would be able to move a guy like Shattenkirk. Now, if you look at a lot of these guys, they're not going to be making big money, probably except for Trouba. Trouba's likely going to be getting a contract somewhere in that $7 million range would be my guess. I mean, if you look at a lot of the other contracts signed during free agency for some of the top defensemen, I really think that when you compare Trouba to those guys, that making $7 million is pretty reasonable. It very well could end up being a little bit more. But either way, moves need to be made in New York to look after their contracts. Kreider could be a way to go, but really I think longer term he could still be a fit there. Like I said yesterday, they kind of need to decide, because they've got so many solid young forwards that they need to decide how many veterans they want to keep in the mix here and who those players are going to be. But the same thing holds true for the blue line here now. Like I said, Kevin Shattenkirk signed as an unrestricted free agent with the New York Rangers. Never really fit in there. Has struggled to get his offensive game going. Has battled some knee injuries and just really hasn't worked out. So could we see the New York Rangers find a way to move Shattenkirk? It's really tough to say. It would certainly be an easy fix to solve a lot of their issues if they could make it happen. And they have so many prospects that they very well could add one to be like a sweetener, as we've seen a lot of these other teams that we've seen making trades of not favorable contracts. They often need to add something to it to make other teams kind of be, open to the fact of taking it without retaining salary or retaining very little salary. So it wouldn't be a complete shocker here to see the Rangers explore this. It's just going to prove to be tough to do after free agency now, and a lot of these contracts have been signed. There's certainly a fair bit of teams that have eaten up a lot of their salary cap space, but there's certainly still some teams, if you take a look at Cap Friendly and look near the bottom of the list here, there's still some teams that have lots of space available and very well could use a right shot defenseman. But overall, there's not many big names at all that can play that right side on the UFA market. So teams that did not accomplish what they're looking to do through free agency are now going to be looking to the trade market, and a guy like Kevin Shattenkirk, hopefully at a reduced value here or with a sweetener, could possibly be a guy to help them out. Now, taking a look next at the San Jose Sharks, they're also another team that's kind of up against the cap. I'll show you their cap situation here right now. They have just over $6 million available, and they have guys like Joe Thornton, Kevin LeBanc, and Dylan Gambrell left to sign. Now, they get Timo Meier signed on a pretty team-friendly contract, but it's just not likely here that they can get all 3 of those players signed. And, of course, it's also rumored they'd like to bring back Patrick Marleau, or at least he wants to go there. I think the feeling is somewhat mutual, but obviously it's going to depend on the cap. I could see Marleau even taking a 1-year contract at $700K, to be honest. League minimum, just a chance to play with the Sharks for 1 more year. But even with that, and even if Thornton takes a pretty cheap contract, you still, look at LeBanc. He's probably going to get, I don't know, I'd say at least $3 or $4 million on a short-term contract. Maybe a little more. Like, he probably won't get quite as much as Timo Meier. Meier's certainly proven to be a little bit more productive, and certainly had some better numbers. So I think he'll get less than Meier will. But still, when you add it all up, the numbers just don't jive here. So who could be on the move in San Jose? Well, it's also rumored that they might move another defenseman in Brendan Dillon. That's a possibility. I've talked before about the fact that they seem interested in trading backup goaltender Aaron Dell. Maybe bring in a cheaper option for a backup goalie to save some money in that regard. And there's also forward Melko Karlsson, who's another name as well from the forward group, who likely won't have too big of a role that they very well could learn to live without here. So I do expect the San Jose Sharks to make another cost-cutting type of trade. So another team very well could take advantage of that. Somebody who needs one of these types of players. There's certainly some teams out there who could upgrade their backup goalie situation, or maybe add a veteran defenseman like a Brendan Dillon, or another depth forward like a Melko Karlsson. I think they're all valuable pieces. If the right teams come along, the Sharks likely wouldn't get much in return. They'd probably want picks or prospects, something that doesn't have to go on the books here right away. But I do fully expect the San Jose Sharks to make some more cost-cutting trades here before we get too deep into the summer. Now, next up, let's look at the Calgary Flames. Now, the Flames are a team with a lot of restricted free agents that need to be signed here, and even though their salary cap space doesn't look too bad at the moment, once you get all those contracts looked after, they're likely not going to be able to afford to sign all of these guys with what they have to work with here today without shedding some salary and some other aspects here. Let's take a quick look at the Flames salary cap situation, and you'll see here the 6 RFAs include some key guys like Matthew Tkachuk and Sam Bennett on the forward group. Then you got goaltender David Rittich as well. So who could the Flames move? Well, they've already been rumored to want to shake up that blue line a little bit. So that's going to be mostly TJ Brodie, possibly Travis Hamonic. I think Brodie's more likely between the two defensemen, though. Of course, they'd love to move forward James Neal in that contract that they signed last year during free agency, which really has been a bad contract. He had a terrible first year in Calgary, but again, considering there's 4 years remaining on it, over $5 million per year, that's not going to be easy. The Flames are not exactly rich in prospects, and the few ones that they have, they likely want to keep. Most of their top prospects are on the blue line right now, with guys like Valimaki, Anderson. Those guys are just slowly becoming, regulars in the NHL, and as they trade out these veteran defensemen, will likely get more ice time and bigger roles. Our option 2 is at forward is Michael Frolik. He's been a player that's been mentioned in the NHL trade rumor mill for some time here as well. So there was some talk at one point about Frolik maybe going to New Jersey, but that really hasn't come to be. We've seen New Jersey make other moves, and as I discussed yesterday, New Jersey is still rumored to be looking to add some more depth here in various positions, including the forward group. So it would not be surprising at all to see New Jersey look into having a guy like Frolik to play maybe like a third line type of role for them. But either way, Frolik is another player from the Calgary Flames who could find himself on the move. Other RFAs as well. Wouldn't be a complete shocker to see them trade Sam Bennett. I can't say with any kind of certainty that's going to happen, of course, but Bennett's a guy who's never really lived up to his full expectations. He's found a way to be productive and found a way to be relevant in the NHL, but he's not that offensive player that they thought they were getting when they drafted him quite highly here just not too long ago. So we'll see what happens in Calgary, but they're another team that has to make some cost-cutting moves here. They got a lot of restricted free agents to sign. Matthew Tkachuk's going to be demanding some big money, and they need to make sure they can get everybody looked after, and some other veteran guys, especially on the blue line, are likely going to be heading out to make that happen. Now, lastly here, I want to touch on the fact of the Montreal Canadiens. Of course, we saw them sign Sebastian Aho to an offer sheet, and there's many people out there speculating. I see it all through social media. Are the Habs going to offer sheet somebody else as soon as the Canes officially sign off on that offer sheet and match, and then they get all their draft picks back? Because right now, until the Canes officially sign off on it, and we don't know exactly when that's going to be, those draft picks that the Habs would have to give up to get him would be considered like tied up right now. So like I said, they could make an offer sheet for more money, which would require like the 4 first-round picks, for example. If they go over the $10.5 million, they have the picks for that, because those picks only have to be given over a 5-year period. So that's more likely to happen. I've seen many out there think that would they offer sheet Braden Point of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and to be honest, I really don't think that's a possibility at all. And there's a couple of reasons why. One, I don't think Braden Point has any desire to leave Tampa. Obviously, I think the fact that they're in Florida and have tax-friendly Florida, they'd have to really drastically and grossly overpay Braden Point to have any chance to bring him to Montreal. I think the thing to get all this started was the fact that Braden Point and Sebastian Aho have the same agent. Or many people feel like the agent kind of used the Habs in order to get the contract done here with Carolina, so it didn't drag on too long. But really, at the same time, many were believing that he was looking for $9.5 million, Aho was. So for him to sign a restricted free agent offer sheet at 8.5 is quite a drop. So, you can't help but wonder why they couldn't have got this done on their own and avoided the offer sheet here altogether. But either way, I don't see Brayden Point signing an offer sheet. To be completely honest, if another team is offer sheeted, I think the team right now that is the most vulnerable would be the Winnipeg Jets, and it probably would be Patrick Laine. Now, I think I've heard some rumblings that Kyle Connor's camp has gotten a few interesting phone calls at least. I think the Jets are probably asked about, would they trade him rather than sign him? His agent might have been, discussing the possibility of what an offer sheet might have to look like or what the parameters would be or something to that effect. I know when the RFA interview period opened, we've seen reports that Connor's camp did get a few calls. But really, I think Laine might prove to be more difficult to sign here. Obviously, Patrick Laine is a player who's had some very productive seasons, but last year was kind of weird for him. He certainly had stretches where he was awesome, and he had stretches where he was stone cold and terrible. And really, I think the Jets are probably a little leery of locking him up longer term. So if another team came along with a long-term contract and wanted to bet on the fact that he's going to be a consistent 35 to 40 goal man and willing to pay him the big money that he wants, then Winnipeg could be in quite a pickle to match that contract, especially if it's a team with some deeper pockets who can afford the signing bonuses as well. Now, Winnipeg should be able to afford the signing bonuses. I'm not sure if that's going to be a bone of contention here or not. Probably more than anything is likely going to be term. I think term with a lot of these RFAs seem to be the sticking point. Many of them don't want to lock in those 7 or 8 year deals anymore. They want the 4 and 5 year contracts to get closer to being a younger unrestricted free agent so they can cash in big time yet again and maximize their overall earnings throughout their career, which to a degree makes sense. I kind of understand that. You have to work with the team though, especially if it's a place you enjoy playing and want to stay long term, to make sure that the team can also, put the most competitive team on the ice. So I guess we'll see, but I really don't think Montreal is going down the offer sheet road again, based on the fact that they've made some other signings and their salary cap space has kind of gone down a bit, and the fact that I just don't see it happening with Brayden Point, period, with anybody. I think if any team out there was, brazen enough like Bergevin was to haul the offer sheet out, personally, I think they would go after one of the boys in Winnipeg. But that's just my opinion. Let me know your thoughts down below. Are the offer sheets done for this year? Or do you think another team, whether it be Montreal or anybody else, is going to be doing any more before this period is up and all these RFAs eventually get signed? Of course, as always, want to hear your thoughts and opinions on everything else we discussed here today. What kind of moves do you expect all these teams up against the cap here to make to shed some salary? And who could be good trading partners? Give me some mock trades down below and let me know what you think down in the comment section. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Make sure you turn on all notifications as well so you don't miss any future content. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you next time.